And I just got to a point where I just was like, you know what, God, I'm not having fun. I I don't want to do this anymore. And so began the ideation of me really entertaining the thought of ending my life, y'all. And no one, I told no one about this because we don't talk about this, which is something I wanted to talk about, is making sure that we are creating an environment where we are approachable to people who may be suffering in this kind of way. So I began to entertain the thought. And of course, I was a parent. So it's like, how could you think of those things and you were a parent? But when you hear that you're no good to anyone, right, you begin to believe it. And at that,
I am so pleased to introduce everyone to my new friend, Loretta. Loretta and I had a lovely exchange doing a podcast on her platform. And as it sometimes happens, we connected, we clicked, we fell in love with each other, and we just wanted to keep going. So here you are. I am learning for the first time a lot that you will be learning for the first time. So, as we move through this conversation on this particular podcast, I encourage you to stay to the end to really get all the juiciness of this beautiful soul story. Welcome, Loretta.
thank you so much, Lee. Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm honored to be invited to your beautiful platform and speak with your collective. So thank you for me being on. I'm excited.
So, let's get started. Let's just jump into your story.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay, everybody. I like talking directly to the audience. My journey started, y'all, with just the regular old thing that most of us enter into the awakening process through is plain old suffering, right? Pain, mental pain, and suffering. Real briefly, I got married, right, when my ex-husband quickly recognized that that was a mistake. I was pretty young at the time. And so after about 3 years of marriage, I was like, I have to get out of this. And so filed a divorce. He and I divorced, and I just wanted out of the marriage with whatever I came into the marriage with. So we divorced. He left the state that we were living in, and I didn't, have child support or anything. So a few years after that, I had a girlfriend that was like, Loretta, you have to put this guy up on child support. And I did not want to because I knew that hell would ensue, right? I knew the kind of personality that I was dealing with. So finally, I did that. And that's exactly what happened. We got into a tumultuous custody battle. And he would file motion after court motion after court motion after court motion. And those of you who are familiar with the family court system, if you have a parent that files a motion, you as the other parent have to respond. And back in that day, which at least it has been at least 10 years ago, it was like $3,000 per motion. So it really was a crafty way to really do financial abuse to the person who you are in battle with. And so these motions will be anything from what school the kids can go to who gets to have braces, right? And so my family is a plane ride away. They do not live in New Jersey where I live. So it was just me and these three beautiful kids, and I'm having to deal with this court stuff. And so debt was mounting, right? And verbal abuse was continuing. And I just got to a point where I just was like, you know what, God, I'm not having fun. I don't want to do this anymore. And so began the ideation of me really entertaining the thought of ending my life, y'all. And no one, I told no one about this because we don't talk about this, which is something I wanted to talk about, is making sure that we are creating an environment where we are approachable to people who may be suffering in this kind of way. So I began to entertain the thoughts. And of course, I was a parent. So it's like, how could you think of those things and you were a parent? But when you hear that you're no good to anyone, right, you begin to believe it. And at that time, my oldest daughter, who was only about 7 or 8, he did a lot of manipulation with her, so she hated me. So I got my oldest daughter hating me. I'm fighting for the kids. It just, y'all, it was too much. I did not want to continue to endure the suffering. And anyone who has suffered from or has been through the journey of suicidal ideation, it is not that you want to end your life, it's that you just want the pain to end. You just want it to stop. So anyway, I don't know how I got married to the near-death experience. I must have gone on YouTube and searched up what happens if you kill yourself, or what happens if you die. Though I grew up in the church, it was not pushed on me, and I'm grateful for that. But I did go to church. I did, have familiarity with the Bible. But religion was not something that I gravitated toward in my darkest moments. And that's just only my experience, right? That may be different for others, but religion was not something that I thought was a resource for me. I think I just really did not want to look for rules and regulations. And if you're in a space where you're entertaining the thought of ending your life, you're not really giving a care about a concept called hell, right? Because you're in hell, right? Hell is here. And so it wasn't about that. I was looking for something else, but I did not mentally know what it was that I was looking for. But I became obsessed with searching up these experiences, these near-death experiences. And this was before the time, before you and I, Lee, where we would have all the NDEers on one platform. You had to search out different people. So I would do that. And my mind would say, it would question, why are we looking this stuff up? What I didn't know what was going on. And I couldn't answer that question. I don't know why I'm searching this up, but it was doing something for me. I can't say that it was giving me joy, because I was not yet in a vibration of joy, but it was doing something for me. It was the only thing that I woke up and did that I genuinely wanted to do. You have things that you have to do, like get ready for work, get the kids ready for school, and those kind of things. It's what I wanted to do. I wanted to look up these experiences, and until I found a woman who had herself, and she very matter-of-factly said, we all reincarnate over and over again with the same soul family to learn different lessons and play different roles. And it was like I felt like I had been in a desert looking for water, and finally I found this wellspring of life, y'all. And that was it for me. That's all it took. Because it completely changed my perception of what I was experiencing. I was convinced that I was a victim. These things were being done to me. And Lee, you and I have talked about that, where there's nothing really done to you. It's really done for you, and you are doing to it. But it changed my complete perception of my experience from victimhood to being, you know what, I might have asked this guy to do this. I may have asked this man to play this role for me so that I can get what I needed to get and grow spiritually. And so then I began to consume. I'm very much a book person. So I began to consume books about life after life and life between lives, Michael Newton and Dolores Cannon, and A Course in Miracles. I just found these beautiful Robert Schwartz. I don't know if you all have heard of Robert Schwartz, but if you're dealing with any kind of life challenge, Robert Schwartz's book, Your Soul's Journey, is beautiful, beautiful. He has 3. I can't think of them on the top of my head.
I'll make sure that the links are in the
description. But yeah, I began to consume these books and really learn more about me, who I am. We're not our body, really. We're not our thoughts. We are much higher than this experience. And so I fell in love with myself. And just continued the love affair with the near-death experience. So that's my experience in a nutshell.
You're beaming, and it feels, I mean, you explained that very concisely. I know I've been making notes to ask you questions, but
Yeah.
it is amazing how whatever you call it, God, creator, source, spirit, light, whatever name, plug it in, guides us in a way that isn't like, don't do what you're thinking about doing because here I've got an answer for you.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of like breadcrumbs where you don't know why, but you're being drawn to these near-death experiences.
Yeah.
And there's something in it that's drawing you, that's pulling you, that it lights you up. It's your one thing in the day that's like, hey, there's hope there. You may not even have recognized that there's hope there, but there's a breadcrumb. And then that breadcrumb led you to another breadcrumb that led you to this beautiful someone talking about their near-death experience. And then that was speaking directly to you.
Yeah.
We never realize, because this work, we talked about this work is not easy doing the podcast, right? It's a lot of work. But if it touches one person that stopped them from ending their life, all worth it.
Yeah.
Because, we're here to have that contrast, which is what you came to understand. I did want to ask you a couple questions about your story, just to, I like to fill in the details. What age were you when you got married?
I was 24.
Okay.
And he was about 15 years older than me.
Okay.
So there was a big age difference. And I often say it was my first experience of the low vibrational experiences of love and marriage. So I was so green behind the ears, so wet behind the ears in terms of that kind of experience. But yeah, I was young. I was about 24 I was 24 when we've had our first child. And I guess I was about maybe 30 when we got married, now that I think about it. Because we actually had our first kid before we got married.
Okay, and then you had 2 more.
I had a set of twins.
Twins.
And it's so funny because I did, research my pre-birth planning. That's how excited I was. I did research my pre-birth planning with this gentleman, and the agreement was he asked me to be in his life this lifetime, and I said I will for a little while, but you must give me kids. You must give me my kids. And that was the agreement. And it's so funny because when I was pregnant with the twins, I had decided I'm going to have these babies. I'm going to heal. I'm going to go back to work, and I'm going to file for divorce.
You knew while you were pregnant with the babies, because that was one of my next questions is when did you know this is not healthy? This is not good?
And that's like the kind of like the joke that I laugh with my guys. It's like the kids, it's almost like they were like, we got to go in together. Mom is getting ready to leave this man, and if we want to come and have this experience, we got to jump in together. Yes, I had decided I'm filing divorce, and I was with child. So you know how us women are. It's an internal process when we just know, okay.
And we know when.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know when. And I think I shouldn't say all women know that, but I'm a big proponent for myself is not to make the decision until there's 100% clarity. because you don't know what other kind of interference or bad timing or things like that. But okay.
So I guess I'm being guided to share this experience with your question, Lee. The moment that I knew for sure, we were home. We had a big, beautiful house. I had my twin daughter. They were babies. The twins were babies. My oldest was about 7, 8, and his son from a previous marriage was holding Jonathan. So Jonathan and Jasmine were the twins. I was holding my baby girl, and his son was holding my son, and my oldest was sitting on the couch. We were just kind of, having, family time or whatever. My ex-husband came home. He was angry. I think at that point I had filed for divorce, but I was very transparent and was like, okay, look, I'm filing for divorce. Let's just, get past this and keep going. He came in very angry. He came upstairs, and the stairs kind of faced the couch in the family room. So he went upstairs and faced us and yelled something. And my baby daughter, who was so tiny, she jumped almost out of her skin, because we know that our kids, our babies, they may not know exactly the language, but they feel that energy. They are sensitive to energy. And she jumped so hard that I made a promise to God. I said, if you help me get out of this situation, I promise you, I will never have these kids in this position again. Just see me through this. And the rest is history. So maybe that was something that I needed to share for the collective. We all have our moments. And a lot of times, y'all, we may not get to a point where we love ourselves enough to exit a toxic situation, but us as parents, and I'm not going to just say mothers and fathers, us as parents love our children enough to where we say no more. And that was the moment for me. When she jumped so hard, it was like, no, we're not doing this anymore.
That's very interesting that this morning I saw, I don't know, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, I don't know, a little short video, but it was a reflection on a study that was made. And we already know this, that we know through science, our brains are in theta state from 0 to 7 years old. So anything that happens during that time is an imprint, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're being programmed during that time. But they did this study where they had this, I think, an 18-month-old child on the mother's lap, and they were giving the child some, toys and some tests and engagement, and happily doing, playing and engaging.
Mm-hmm.
And then they introduced another person that came into the room and started yelling at the mother.
Mm-hmm.
And instantly the child was taking in, obviously visibly on alert.
Mm-hmm.
Then that person left, and they gave the toys back to the child, and the child couldn't engage with the toys.
Yeah.
So yes, we have to make the children the priority,
Absolutely.
and then we catch up, right? We catch up in our own process of healing and moving on. You said something that was one of my questions, which is that you said to God. So although you did not have, you said you grew up in the church,
Mm-hmm.
but what church was that? Christian church, Catholic, Baptist? Okay. So right.
It wasn't too serious. It was like
Okay.
whatever church was around. But
Okay.
yeah,
All right.
yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
there was a foundation,
Mm-hmm.
but and yet you said that you prayed at that time, even though you didn't have really a prayer life.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe would that be
Mm-hmm.
fair to say?
Yeah, I definitely always talk to God.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you did.
Yeah, always,
I
definitely.
call that prayer. So
Yeah.
that's a conversation.
Absolutely. During the time when I was entertaining the thought of myself, I was angry, of course, at God, which was, was my own miscreation. I call it a miscreation when we've created an experience that is not pleasant. I just felt this sense of abandonment, right? Because I was in victim mode, right? I'm a victim. This is being done to me. How could you let this be? So I was just in a very dark place. But no, I definitely at that time, this was before the ideation. This was before that time. This was the when I was,
Still married.
all the divorce and all that. This was before the custody battle. But yeah, I was like, if you see me through this, I'm getting these kids out of this situation.
Okay. And
Mhm.
then it was harder than you imagined afterwards.
The divorce was quick
Okay.
because I just was like, let's get, and he was trying to drag the divorce on. And I told him, the longer you take for this divorce to finalize, the more money I'm going to pursue you for. I didn't want his money. I've always had my own money. I didn't want his money, but I knew that would motivate him to go ahead and end that process. So no, it was a fairly speedy divorce. He was trying to drag it on, but I wanted to get the family out of crisis mode. And I definitely wanted to get out of the marital home. So, and I figured, okay, the kids can have an amazing time with mom, and then they have an amazing time with dad, but they don't have to grow up hearing this turmoil. So yeah, yeah.
And for a long time there it was okay, like having that split custody. And was that a written split custody, or did you have full custody and you just had them?
I compromised a lot on paper.
Okay, okay,
The
that's all.
kids were mainly with me. The kids
Okay,
were mainly with, because he left the state after
okay.
the divorce. So yeah, it was pretty peaceful. But it was just me though, taking care of the kids without
It's a
child
lot.
support. And so yeah, but it was peaceful, which is what I wanted. I wanted peace, right? Yeah.
And so now let's cut back to once you found the near death experiencers and brought you into a new understanding of what this life is all about, what the purpose is. Talk us through what came next for you.
So after I found out who we are, who I am, who we all are, that was it for me. For about the next 3 to 5 years, I just fell in love. I did everything from look in the mirror and say, "You are beautiful, you are courageous." The kids thought I was crazy.
It's a good
Uh,
example, though, for them to see that.
yeah, and I just, again, I just consumed spiritual material. I got into A Course in Miracles, and my attraction to A Course in Miracles is it really is a course, right? It's not a religious text in as much as it is a mind training course. So that sounds scary. That may sound scary to some people, a mind training course. We are mind trained all our lives, y'all. We are programmed from the time we're born. The family life is a programming. Commercials are programming. So religion, the school system, heavy programming. So this is a programming course, a mind training course that allows you to program yourself from fear back to love, from smallness back to the truth of who you are. And it is channeled by Jesus through a lady by the name of Helen Schuckman. It was written about 50 years ago, really, actually, for this time right now, so that we can clarify our minds, y'all. Back to love from fear. A lot of the things that we do, we don't know why we do. A lot of the beliefs that we hold are not our original beliefs. They're the beliefs of our parents, they're beliefs of the clergyman or the pastor, the beliefs of the collective some kind of way. And so it is an opportunity for us to clear out erroneous thinking, error thinking, back into truth and back into love. So I love A Course in Miracles. You have beautiful lessons such as love created me like itself. Love created me like itself. That is one of my favorites, lesson 76. So it is a course that tells you who you are, the truth of who we are, y'all. So
And it's not separate. I think that's the other thing that the course teaches, if I'm not mistaken, that we are not separate.
We are not separate. We are
We never
absolutely
separated from
all
God.
one. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, just all kind of, again, Dolores Cannon, conversations with God. I love conversations with God. Neil
Yes.
Donald Walsh,
Yes, he's
Eckhart
awesome.
Tolle, Michael Newton's books. Like, so I took that
Consumed.
time to
Hmm.
heal and learn about that which I am. A lot of us, y'all, grow up not, we really don't know who we are. Nobody, we don't know who we are. So it was an opportunity to relearn myself and relearn, okay, I'm not my body. Okay, so what am I? I'm not my emotions. I'm not my thoughts. I'm higher than any experience. I'm the observer, as you have said, Lee. And so it's so critical, especially, anybody who has struggled with wanting to, you are constantly married to your thoughts. There's no separation between you and your thoughts. And your thoughts, you believe every thought that you have. So I learned that just because I think a thing does not mean that it is true. I'll repeat that. Just because I think a thing does not mean that it is true. We do not have to believe our thoughts, you all. We are the consciousness that allows a thing called a thought to even exist. That's how big we are. So having separation, creating separation from us and these energy impulses that we have, and understanding just because I thought that thing doesn't mean. So one of the main things that I did want to talk about is so a thought that I had often when I was in that space was that I was alone. I lived a very isolated life, right? I said my family was not around. It was me and the kids. And spiritually, I thought that I was alone. And so I would have that thought, you are alone. No one loves you, right? I believed that thought. I would have an emotion or a feeling after that thought. I felt bad, right? I thought that by feeling bad, it meant that the thought was true. I learned, everyone, and this is a secret of the universe. I learned that is not true. If you feel bad, it means that is your guidance telling you you are in error, my love. You are on the wrong path. You are not alone. We are not alone. We have all kind of beings around us, spirit guides, angels, ascended masters, ancestors. We have all kinds of beings around us. We just need to connect and tap in with them. So I would have that thought. And so what I call it, the momentum of thinking and feeling. You can have a thought, you feel bad, that feeling fuels more negative thinking, which fuels more heavy feelings. And the next thing you know, you are convinced of a
Spiral.
thing, right? So understanding that every thought that you have is not true. Challenge your thoughts, y'all. Our thoughts, our beliefs, right? Which our thoughts come from our belief. We believe a thing, we think that thing, we speak something, and we do, right? So these are all levels of creation that we have,
And you're hearing them.
yes, available to us. So thinking is very powerful. I always say, even the paint on the wall or the chair that we're sitting in began with someone thinking, you know what, I want to make a chair. It's going to be comfortable but cute, and I want it to be made of wood. It comes from a thought. Everything that we experience comes from those levels of creation. So challenge your thoughts.
I adore you.
Yeah, I do. I challenge my ego all the time. I do. I challenge my ego and say, that's not true. And
No,
I'll
and
even
that's
say,
healthy, right? That's
yeah,
healthy to be, that's the awareness piece of our
yeah,
development. If we are not in awareness, that observer, or mindfulness. If we are not aware, then we're just running that computer virus of a program,
Exactly.
and it's just going to keep running and running and running. But
Exactly.
until you stop and say, hey, something's not working right, I'm going to now be this observer. I'm going to be aware. In mindfulness equals in non-judgment. So I'm not going to judge it, but I'm going to be aware of it. Let's follow that computer virus all the way back to its origination point. And then once you can
Mm-hmm.
do that, you can get rid of the virus. You can reprogram. You can
Mm-hmm.
shift that. And that's part of that healing
That
process.
is so true. That is so true. And the first thing is recognizing through your feelings. If you feel bad, recognizing, okay, that thought is in error. Just like you said, I'm glad you said that, Lee. And then, where did this come from? Where did this thought come from? When I was
I love
growing
the way
up.
you articulated that. It's that
Yeah,
this thought is in error. I
yeah,
love that.
it's an error. Yeah, 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 I love it.
And so when you came upon, you were just devouring all of this
Hmm.
content, right? You're
Hmm.
reading, 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 devouring it, and healing and falling in love with yourself, which I got
Hmm.
chills when you said it, and I still
Hmm.
am. When you fell in love with yourself, what major, let's say, kind of supernatural shifts occurred, because you made reference to speaking to your guides and things like that. So what was maybe the first supernatural thing that happened where you were like, whoa, I'm so much more than what I thought I was?
So, you know what? And I'm getting the chills as I'm sharing this. I'm sorry, hold on.
Don't be sorry. That's wonderful.
So, this is very true to me. I feel it on a visceral level. A lot of times, Lee, especially once I had gotten into the spiritual space, people who have these fantastical experiences, right? Where they can hear guides, or there was always a sense, and it's a self worth issue. There was always a sense with me that, man, that is awesome for that person. I never thought it was something that was possible for me on a very deep level. I never thought it was sounded so awesome, right? So my journey, and I'm telling this to somebody who needs to hear it. My journey in this space was very 3D. It's very bookish. It's very reading something and knowing it to be true. So I didn't have a lot of those experiences where I channeled, or that I heard, or that and so I'm encouraging anybody who does not have those experiences, do not think that your experience is any less than anyone else's. You just chose a different journey. And I really believe in my heart that that has been my journey, so that people can feel relatable
Mhm.
to my journey. They won't feel like, man, she has something that I don't have. I did have an experience, and it's funny, it's interesting that you asked, because this morning I thought, you know what, I've never shared this, and I want to share this with Lee.
Yay.
I had an experience, y'all. I was coming out of the ideation, right? And I was just getting into a space. I had gotten to a space where I'm looking at these NDEs, and I'm healing. I was healing myself, and I had recently experienced, and I never experienced it again, but I experienced a panic attack, because it was like this prolonged fear, right, and terror, and so I didn't know at the time it was a panic attack. I was at work, and all of a sudden I just this energy drops on me, where it's like fight or flight, like as if somebody is threatening me with a, but nothing was going on. I'm sitting at work, it's quiet, you hear laptops, and computers being typed on, and I didn't know what, it was this sense of terror, right? So I breathed. I just was like, breathe, just breathe. I think at that point I was familiar with Eckhart Tolle and the power of breath, right? And so I took deep breaths, and I just sat with it, right? So again, I say that because of what I'm going to say next. So that had happened, right? Maybe a week or two later. I was in the custody battle with my ex and the kids' daycare. So I had 2 babies, y'all. 2 babies in daycare. So you can imagine that daycare bill. Okay, all parents who have babies in daycare. They called me and said, your ex-husband just called. He said he's not paying his half of the daycare, right? So immediately I start to go into panic mode. And y'all, I will never forget, felt this energy. It was right here in the middle of my chest. That's why I always say I refer to this area when I'm speaking, because God showed up for me right here, or source, or creator. And it was an energy. It was warm and it was so powerful, y'all. It was so powerful. And at the same time I felt this energy, at the same time I can't say that I heard, it was not an audible voice, but I felt this voice inside of me that said, you can afford it, you okay. It was almost like a big sister, or an aunt, like, you got it, you got this, you okay, like, don't panic. And it just went away, and I wanted that feeling again. As soon as it went away, I'm like, because it was such a powerful feeling. It really was very addictive. That's why I'm always very compassionate with NDEers after they've had a near-death experience, and they're like, I went into a depression, because I'm like, that was like a 3-second experience and I wanted it back, as if it was like a drug. I wanted it back because it's very, really very hard to describe, but a strong, warm, powerful love, and it put me in alignment with strength, which I had not experienced. I was experiencing a lot of smallness and hopelessness, and but I never forgot that experience. So that was kind of like one of the more metaphysical experiences that I had,
Powerful.
that I've never forgotten.
Thank you for sharing that. That's exactly what I was talking about, something like that. Now, some people would say, oh, that's just yourself telling you, and like, when you have an experience like that, no one is going to tell you that you didn't have it.
Exactly.
Because it is, yourself, your experiences, and when, God winks at you, whatever that is for you, you know it. And it can be audible, it can be visceral, it can be unknowing, it can be something that is not as grandiose as some other experiences. And then, once you start having them, you're like, oh, I want that. Oh, I want to have that. I want to be able to hear. I want to be able to see. I want to be, and that ego is the very thing that will push it all away. It's in the surrender and then the connection that you personally have to all that is.
Yeah.
And for me, my experiences, the strongest experiences, are the ones that are visceral, that are something that I feel or I have an inner knowing on. But that's beautiful. And it's true. You have an experience like that, whether it's in meditation or it's a request. I was in despair at one point and asked Creator for help, and I had an angel come to me.
Wow.
And you don't ever forget that. You're like, right? So, and then boom, gone. Because when you're grasping, those things don't present.
Yeah.
It's like the static is there, and you can't get through the static.
Exactly.
That's a beautiful story. I love that, Loretta. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. And I just wanted to just say to everyone, you are enough. For so long, y'all, I was looking for those experiences. That was exactly what you said, Lee. That was my frustration. I want to see, I want to hear, I want to, but I really, really feel that I asked my guides not to present in that way, because I was so much in that grasping energy where I felt like someone or something outside of me was more validating than me. And it's been a long journey, but you are enough, y'all. The downloads that you have, the inspirations that you have, the lessons that you learn, you is enough There is not an experience outside of you that is more valid, that is more important than that which you are. You are God in your own way. Believe it, feel it, y'all. Feel that.
And
So I just want
what?
to say that. Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think that that is kind of one of the biggest diseases that we have is that
Hmm.
feeling like we're not enough or that we're disconnected or we're not valued. Um,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's y'all, we are just I want to say we're courageous for being here. Y'all, we and if anybody is dealing with depression or esteem issues or even, hey, abuse or you're in a marriage that is not serving you or you're dealing with a dis-ease where your body is in pain, know that you are empowered to change your situation and know that the darkest of your experience is the brightest you're gonna be, y'all, to help yourselves and others. It is not, I've said this and I will say it again, it is not in those moments when we cross our legs and relax that we become the most powerful. It is in the moments where we have the grasping, where we have the grunts of struggle in the dark night of the soul that make us more powerful. That's where the wisdom comes from. That's where the compassion comes from. That's where the downloads come from. In those moments. So, as dark as you may be, with the feeling that you may have, the heaviness in your heart, that is to the degree that you will be powerful and a blessing to yourself and others. I have lived it, y'all. When you hear it, it may sound like, oh, she's airy fairy. I've been in hell right here, y'all. I've sat on the edge of my bed wondering, how am I going to do this? How am I going to? Okay, I got to do it when the kids are with their dad. I've been there. So I'm not saying this out of just naivety. You are powerful beings in the moment of now, not a future moment. I was powerful then. I was powerful then. I just didn't know it. So you are powerful wherever you are. You are God in this moment. Just believe it. Just allow your thinking to shift and your life will change. And Lee, I just want to say I've never felt this level of compassion on a podcast before. I think it attests to the energy between you and I, that this is coming through. And I know it's kind of feels kind of intense, but yeah, this is strong. We're powerful beings. We don't hear that enough. So
No, that
yeah,
that
yeah,
message was just letting you roll because that's like that is God speaking through you.
yeah.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, right,
Take a
right.
break.
Yeah.
I did remember we were talking about the need or the want to hear or see or, whether it's in a meditation or psychic development or whatever. But I think the people that have the faith, even when they don't have the proof, is
Yeah.
the most amazing, the most powerful.
Mm,
Uh, to continue to move through this third dimensional experience of contrast
mm,
with just faith
mm.
after each obstacle, each piece of contrast, each thing to deal with, and still praise God. Those are
Yeah.
the people that we lift up.
You speaking to me.
Yeah.
You speaking to me. Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you'll know it. you will know it. Y'all will know it when I just felt it on such, I guess because I had been in hell and I was searching for something. So when I finally found it, it was like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for. Yeah, and all roads, I always say all roads lead to the mountain, right? Sometimes it's, it is, religion or whatever it is that does it for us, but it is recognizing ourselves as the love that we are.
Yes, and
Yeah.
recognizing ourselves in others, or when we understand truly that we all come from the same source
Mm-hmm.
and that we're all having an experience of experience. That's our
Mm-hmm.
purpose here, is to have experience. And when you do happen upon someone that is kind of maybe in your soul family or riding the same energy wave like we have, you instantly know it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there you are. I've been waiting for
Yes.
you.
Yes.
I'm so glad you showed up. And it may be for a short time, it may be for the rest of your time.
Mm-hmm.
But when you feel that feeling of recognition, then don't let that go by, because
Yeah.
that's really pretty special.
Yeah, it is.
And to not judge someone else's journey, whether if someone's track,
Yes.
let's say,
Yes.
is religion or, a particular type of religion, that's their track.
Absolutely.
And to be okay with others' journey that is going to lead them to where their soul's desire
Absolutely.
has been. I remember
Absolutely.
my son saying, and I've said this on other podcasts, what you believe, Mom, that's great for you. And he's such a wise old bird, and he's not that old. But he said, that's not my belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I don't know if I believe in God. And at first I was like, right? And then I'm like, just because you don't believe it doesn't mean that it's not true. And God will
Mm-hmm.
present when it is time for that part
Mm-hmm.
of your journey. And another thing is, just because our belief systems are what they are at this moment, my belief systems have changed over my exploration, over my healing, over the years that I've been on this planet.
Yeah.
And I hope that they will continue, because
Mm-hmm.
how boring it would be to, first of all, for us all to have the same belief system and the
Right.
same journey.
Right.
But I think that we will come to, I think that's really part of our purpose, is come to point of the full understanding of what this all is,
Mm-hmm.
what God is, what the light is, what we are. And I believe that's what part of our big show is right
Mm-hmm.
now. So we may
Mm-hmm.
have been coming at it at all these different paths, but we will eventually move into the all knowing of the
Yeah.
understanding. That's my belief system at this moment.
Yeah, and there are some atheists that are the most loving beings that you can encounter. They may not feel like there's a God, but what they do is they present themselves as that energy because that's who we are, right? And so is it better to have somebody who believes in God and tells people they're going to go to hell, as opposed to an atheist who you know what I'm saying? We have
Right,
so many different experiences, right? So yeah, I love what you said, Lee. We all have, different beliefs, but as long as it's rooted in love and not fear,
right.
I think that's really is,
That's the crux of it. It
that's
is.
it.
That's it.
That's it.
So, tell us about your podcast
Okay.
and what's in store for you now. I do have other questions, but I want to make sure I don't forget to ask you about that.
Okay. My podcast, so I started out, y'all, teaching the lessons of A Course in Miracles. A psychic told me, I met with a psychic and was like, how does Jesus think about my study of A Course in Miracles? And she was like, he's wanting you to teach it. I'm like, what? The first thing I thought was, it's not even been a whole lot of years, but it wasn't, of course our ego goes into credentials. But I started out on the, so if you go to my platform, you'll see where I have guests who are near death experience. But if you dig all the way down to the beginning, I'm teaching the lessons of the course, and I do it in a way that's different. But then eventually I got tired of hearing myself talk, and I said, what, I want to start having guests on. And the near death experience was so instrumental in my awakening process. I started to have, near death experiencers on, and it just has been this beautiful engagement in love. It just is such a joy project. It really is. So yeah,
And the name of your podcast?
it's called Loretta, and here's my name right here. I changed it. Loretta Sharing Group, because the group started out calling the Sharing Group. It's a way to share, right? So yeah, Loretta Sharing Group, and you'll look it up and you see my stuff, the interviews, and I call them conversations, right? Yeah, and I've just been doing that kind of ever since.
How do I want to say this? I'm like, all this wants to come out. Being on your show was so beautiful for me.
Yeah.
Your light just is so natural and just pure that comes out.
Thank you.
And you do something so special in your podcast where you kind of give a love letter to the person that is on the show, which I just want everyone to click on the link in the description box, go over, subscribe, hit that notification bell,
Thank you.
go to Loretta's podcast and listen to her interviews and her teaching on A Course in Miracles. Really beautiful stuff. And we'll have all kinds of links for you there. I'm not done with you. I want to keep kicking some things around. You are in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some current events right now that are happening in New Jersey and around the world. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I think so.
We have this thing that's happening, which people are seeing plasma orbs and massive amounts of drones in the air. And you go on, whether it's X or any kind of platform, social media platform, and you're going to see a lot of dialogue around what these potentials are. And there's all kinds of discussion around it. Have you seen any? Are you aware of it? What do you think they are?
So this is fun. I love this question because there are two thoughts. I majored in criminal justice, so a lot of what I do for a living is very, very like rooted in 3D, So there's a school of thought that these drones are from another country that really is wanting to harm, right? But I love how there's this different conversation, right? That it could be something more, right? And so I love this question, and I hope this is where you were going, Lee, because this is where I want to go, is that concept of, beings that don't look like us, right? So I feel like we have kind of been conditioned a little bit to think that it's a scary thing. But I think a lot of us are opening up to being excited by the thoughts that there are other beings among us, right? And that is exciting because it is my opinion that there are other beings among us and there is nothing to fear. For many years, and I'll say this, the government has wanted to keep that hush hush, and if anybody has, all you have to do is go on Netflix, and there are many documentaries about extraterrestrials, and I think for years they have wanted to just almost like not admit that they are here, because then have to have answers to the questions, right? So it's almost like controlling the information that the public has. But I do believe that there has been so many sightings, and everyone will be surprised to understand that there are many beings who communicate with extraterrestrial beings regularly. It's not this whole big, show. They communicate with them. Now,
are you talking about humans? Humans
yes.
Communicating? Yeah,
many human beings have opened their eyes to an extraterrestrial at the foot of their bed, right? And y'all, these beings are us. We are us and we are them. Back to the conversation that we are one, right? And so, yes, it's getting to a point where it's just become difficult for the powers that be to deny this, right? So they've had to kind of be forthcoming about it, and it is an exciting thing. I'm not saying that there may not be nefarious, extraterrestrial beings, but again, there's nothing to worry. It's all about your vibration. And we're ready, y'all. It's time to be rooted in the fullness of who we are. We are multi-dimensional beings, and a lot of these extraterrestrial beings are a part of our soul family, and are here to reconnect. Y'all, I've heard that octopi are actually extraterrestrial, beings. So there's much to our experience, and extraterrestrials love the planet Earth. We have a huge variety of plant life and sea life and emotional range that they do not have. They are fascinated with our experience, y'all. They come and visit the planet to research stuff that we take for granted. So let's appreciate the planet and let's not go into fear. If fear comes up in you when you think about extraterrestrials, unpack that and figure out where that came from. Many years, people who have seen UFOs or have talked about extraterrestrial, they were demonized, right? They were said, you're crazy. These are, insane people. And that was the conditioning process at that point. So unpack that, because it is that fear is not yours, and just be open. I'm ready to see one. I'm ready to see somebody, honey. But yeah, that I love that question. Yeah, it's a lot going on, hearing, but it's everywhere. It really is everywhere.
Thank you. We didn't discuss this before I brought that up to you just now. So thank you for riding the wave with me. So I am fascinated by the topic. I mean, my whole life I've just wanted to make known the unknown. I've always been a seeker, and if something is hidden, I want to know it. And so when I had my wellness center, there was a gentleman who wrote a book. I wish I could think of the name of the book off the top of my head, but he brought forth the information about the tall whites that are living in Nevada, like in governmental land. And who's to say that they all haven't been here first, and where we can't see them, they're at a higher vibration, or
Right.
they're living amongst us. There are a lot of humanoids, and then there are those who always think about the bar scene in Star Wars. Remember
Yeah.
that? Do,
All
do,
the
do,
different
do,
kind
do,
of.
do, do. And I think maybe in our lifetime we might see something like that. You can see how, as we have moved, as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, making what was once hidden
Yes.
coming to light,
Yes.
that we are going to see all kinds of extraordinary things,
Yes.
and that we are here for this big show, and this big show could be multi levels of a big show. And I think disclosure is overdue, but maybe it
Yes.
is the perfect time. And I'm fascinated by the fact that there are two things going on in the skies, and one is the drone
Mm.
phenomena,
Mhm.
and the other
Mhm.
is the plasma phenomena, which that one is the one that really lights me up,
Mhm.
where there are these fields of plasma that are being seen and recorded that are shifting, have energy in them. There's a really great video, and actually, I should put it in the description as well. There were a couple really cool videos that I just saw this morning about this phenomenon that are asking a lot of really great questions. And I'm a
Mhm.
big fan of, what if, right? Like, how do we
Mhm.
explore anything if we don't just say, stretch it a little bit? Like,
Yeah.
what if? What if the
Yeah.
plasma is really just the introduction to free energy, right? Maybe
Mm.
these are
Mm.
intelligent vibrations
Yeah, I like.
that is the next step, because people like Tesla, who found it, or I don't know, didn't
Yeah.
find it. I mean,
Yeah.
it uncovered the
Yeah.
capacity for free energy. There are a lot of people that did this, but were kind of taken out of the equation because that wasn't really what was possible in the time of the darkness that we have been living in.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
coming into this new age of Aquarius at a very higher, much higher vibration, we're going to benefit from all of this that's coming out. So I
Mhm.
think this is maybe just
Mhm.
kind of the intro. It's kind of an exciting time, I find. I think there's a lot that is going to come out, and I want to see one of these orbs. I'm going to hand it off to you in just a second. This one video, this woman was communicating with this vibrating orb, and she said something to the effect of, "Do you know Jesus?" And it started flashing like these waves of flashing
Wow, I
light. And
love
then she said
that.
something about God, and it started flashing these ways, like she was communicating with this orb. And I'm like, I was so
Mhm.
emotional by it. I was like, this is so amazing. I'm going to send it to you so you can see it.
I love
Um,
it.
but what do you think is in store for the next 5 or 10 years?
I love everything that you said. I want to second what you said, Lee. This is an exciting time, y'all, to be on the planet. Every soul that is here carrying a body absolutely wanted to be here. I've been told by the author of Robert Schwartz, he was on my show, huge full circle moment for me. But he said that there are about three souls to one body on the other side. So the souls are lobbying, right, to come here on this planet, to be here at this time. So if you are here, it's because you absolutely wanted to be here, y'all. You absolutely wanted to be here. Not only that, but there's something that you have that the collective can benefit from. So, yes, it is an exciting time. I think there is much, this is a time for disclosure. There is much that has been done to the in the dark that is being revealed. We all know stories that have come out, and excuse me, a lot of the activities that have occurred that have been done in secret. So that is a good thing. It may feel like things are getting darker, but it's not. It's just things are being disclosed. Things that have already existed are now coming up and are being shown from the light, which is good because then it can be healed. Right. Another thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of our journey is, we may have noticed that in the grocery stores or whatever, nobody wants to deal in cash anymore, right? That is about control, y'all. So let's keep the cash in circulation as much as we can. You want it as a grandma to give the grandkids a $10 bill, when they do something. A cashless system does not serve us. Gardening, if you are being inspired to grow your own fruits and vegetables, do that, because there will be a time when it's just going to be needed for us to trade and barter. We were all entrepreneurs during a time when Jesus was here, right? Everybody was an entrepreneur, whether you knit, whether you played an instrument and you could teach, whether you grew vegetables and you went to the neighbor for them to teach the kids, whatever. Getting back to being entrepreneurs. How do we do that? Just follow our guidance. What gives you joy? Allowing yourself time and space and giving yourself permission to do that with which you enjoy. Don't give your 9 to 5 all of you. Save some for yourself. Sit down and paint if you are drawn to. Learn how to play guitar. Go back to school. These creative impulses come from your spirit, your higher self, your soul, and they will serve us as we journey into the years to come. They are significant, especially gardeners. They're significant. So I just want to encourage everyone we're not sure where we're going, but follow that which gives you joy. Follow your creativity. If you're drawn to write a book, if you are in your mind, you're like, why am I doing this? This is not going to make any money. It's not about that. Our currency is our vibration, y'all. Our currency is our vibration. So keeping a high vibration, honoring yourself, loving yourself. If there are relationships or engagements that you have that do not serve, giving yourself permission to say, I love you. Thank you for the gifts that you have given me, but I'm going to keep it moving on this. This is not serving me. Now is the time, y'all. Now is the time to love ourselves in whatever way that is. We are all guided. We all have an internal guidance system, and that guidance system is that thing that keeps coming to you. You push it away and it comes back. And you give yourself excuses, no, and it comes back. That is your guidance. That is your guidance. That's your soul pushing you to do something. Listen to that. Don't give 100% of yourself to things that we've been conditioned to think is productive. It is productive to sit down and paint. It is productive to color in a coloring book. Whatever you're guided to do, that voice, it's going to serve you in the years to come when we are embarking on situations that we didn't necessarily know was coming. So as long as we do that, we don't have to be in a space of fear, because it's fearful for human beings to delve into the unknown, right? But just listen to your guidance. That's my advice, because I think this coming year is going to be active, as in every year, right?
Such good stuff there, girl. Thank you. Yes, I think this year, for sure, we're going to see some major leaps and changes, and to just do what you need to do to lift yourself up. Like you said, find a creative outlet. Make sure you're meditating. Make sure you are taking care of you first. Nourish yourself mindfully, then give from the overflow. There is an important aspect of that and our longevity of moving through change, to be able to soothe ourselves first in a holistic way,
Yes.
not in something that is detrimental. Very exciting stuff.
Yeah.
I love having you and engaging with you. I'm blessed beyond for us to have been able to connect. So thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share that I want to make sure that people know that you mentioned a lot of great books. Those are going to be listed I always put them on my shopping page, where all the books that my guests list are indicated, although books that I recommend are indicated. So please follow those links. I'll make sure that I put them up. And then you also do hypnosis, correct?
Yeah,
You're a coach and you do hypnosis? Talk about that.
yeah, I do a little Dolores Cannon's QHHT. Yeah, so I do hypnosis. I really prefer to do it in person. Of course, COVID changed the game. But yes, I do that. So if anybody emails me from Lee's platform, I'll give you a discount. I don't know what discount, but I will give you a discount if you reference that you heard of my hypnosis services through this platform. Yeah, I definitely do
So
that.
I have your email address. Do you have a website, or you just use your YouTube page?
I do have a website. It's not as active, but I'll reference it.
Okay.
It's allthingshealing.net. .net.
Okay. And I'll make sure I put
Allthingshealing.net.
that on there as well.
Yeah,
Um,
and my my email address is acimsharing@gmail.com.
Terrific.
And last words, just recognize your courage, y'all. Recognize your courage. You may not feel like you're very courageous. You may not feel like you may not have a podcast. You may not, but recognize the beauty and the courage of who you are. That's the biggest thing. The beginning of healing begins with the knowledge that you are God, the belief and the knowing that you are God. Yes, you are God. Your presence, your very presence blesses the world, y'all. It does. It blesses the world. See that in yourself. See that in yourself, and your life will change. It starts with our beliefs. It starts with our beliefs. And if you're having thoughts that do not serve, become the observer and say, wonder where that came from. Okay, that's interesting. It's not true. And then think a new thought or do a new thing. Feel the sun on your skin. Take your shoes and socks off and connect with the planet, right? Just whatever it is that puts you back into the present moment, because you are divine beings of light. Each and every one of us, we have to repeat that and say it over and over again, because we don't grow up hearing those things. We grow up hearing that we're born in sin and that we're sinners and that, we should be seen and not heard. All of those are conditioning programs, y'all, that's still running. They're still run in our minds. So now is the time to break away from that conditioning and recognize your beauty and your courage for being here. There are parts of God that will not incarnate on this planet because it is too scary for them. But you, look at you. You're here carrying these bodies. You are courageous. And just knowing that, right now I have a 30-day challenge on my channel of every day waking up and speaking, I am love. And in that way, conditioning ourselves, programming our day to be love. I am service. I am compassion. I am self-love. I am love. And so I encourage everyone, if that resonates with you, to do that. Wake up and speak it. Don't just think it. Speak it. Speak it. Push out what you feel within. Push it out to the universe and say, I am love. And let's see what love does today. Let's see how love is demonstrated today. And I love you all. When I say it, I mean it. I love you all. And thank you so much for hanging out, with us today. It's been a pleasure, Lee, being on your show.
It's my pleasure as well.
Yeah.
And I am love.
Yes.
And I love you. And I love all of you.
Yes.
And let's keep sharing that.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Ann.
Yeah. Okay.
Take care. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.